Third part. After the aborted battle, the rude visitors had gone on their way. The dark of night seeped between the trees, and the pale moon came out. Lena heated some synthetic coffee over a small electronic traveling lamp. She'd brought the beverage from her wagon. The lamp belonged to Dee. A silver cylinder 6 inches high and 2 inches in diameter, the lamp could also serve as a thermostat and heater, or as a refrigeration unit. And, obviously, you could cook on it too. Travelers couldn't be bothered carrying around a lot of bulky items. Deftly lowering the heat-absorbent silicone pot, she poured the contents into 2 cups made of the same material, then called it to Dee. "It's ready." "I thought I told you. I didn't want any." "Oh, no you didn't. Drink it. It'll warm you up." What a beautiful moon." Going to Dee's side, she forced him to take hold of the cup. "I'll cut us some jerky, too." "I don't want any." "And what are you supposed to do if you don't eat?" But even as she said this, Lena withdrew the offer. "Well, fine then. I don't have much appetite either today." "Is your stomach bothering you?" Dee asked without turning around. "Let me think. I'm not always like this. Anyway, Dampiers are really awesome." Nothing from Dee. "A little while ago, I took a look at the corpse of that guard beast out in the middle of the river. The marks on its tentacles almost made it look like they'd been bitten off. Surprised the heck out of me." Dee was silent. Lena closed her eyes softly and drank in the perfume of the moonbeam grass wafting in through the window. The wind was singing in the trees. Maybe Dee was listening to it. Dee. That's an odd name. What's the D for? Devil, death, danger. Any of them would fit you to a T. "Tomorrow, you go home," Dee said in a subdued tone. "No way." "Surely you know what I am by now. If anyone tells the exam board about this, it'll probably spell the end of your dreams of the capital." "I don't care." Lena giggled, taking Dee's left arm. "If that happens, I'll go off with you. The wife of a hunter. Now wouldn't that be a life of thrills galore?" When Dee turned his rightfully dumbfounded face to her, she added, "Just kidding. That was a joke. Just say I can go with you, and that'll be fine." "Quit your nonsense and go to bed. I have to leave early tomorrow morning." "I'll have lunch waiting for you." Lena joined her thumb and forefinger in the OK sign. She even winked at him. "Give 'em hell, hubby." Dee heaved a sigh. It was a long sigh. The kind that hadn't once escaped as he battled monsters or the nobility. It seemed even this youth, who was like clockwork crafted from ice, was subject to the occasional malfunction. "Tell me, Dee, where do you come from?" Lena asked with a sober expression. "Where did you come from? And where are you going? Or the nobility? Or even mankind?" Dee turned and gazed at Lena. Perhaps he had caught a certain minute anxiety in the words of the girl. "Tough questions." "Don't you know? Even someone like you, who knows both worlds, even you don't have the answer. What is it to live by both day and night? What is it to be human? What is it to be a noble? Don't you know? Why do you ask? I really want to know. Tell me. The aroma of moonbeam grass wafted around the two of them. Dee moved to the door without a word, then leaned his body against one wall. Lena took a seat on a piece of framework hanging a foot off the ground. The world of the night lay before their eyes. To be a noble, most likely, is to live by night. Dee began softly, with his long sword in his right hand and a cup of steaming coffee in his left. The potential power inherent in the darkness of night and the shadowy influence it has on the nobility down at the very molecular level are mysteries today. Even during the nobility's golden age of science, they couldn't begin to unravel them. The question of why the flesh of the nobility is invincible, the secret of how they can live eternally, ageless and immortal, so long as they're spared from sunlight or a blow from a stake, or the riddle of why that blow has no effect whatsoever unless taken through the heart. It's nothing if not ironic that the first creatures in the history of the world to reach a measure of longevity that could never be surpassed, were anguished, as no others, by trying to discover the secret of their powers. I wonder if the field of genetic engineering could have offered some clues. Although I did hear the information from every possible gene was collated in the nobility's computers. The process of decoding the information contained in every single gene was completed more than 5,000 years ago. But that's not where the problem lies. Once they discovered the gene that prevented aging, they must have asked themselves why such a gene had come into existence. Where do we come from? Where are we going? I guess that remains the eternal question for all of us, noble and human alike. But what did the power of darkness you just mentioned have to do with any of this? Dee nodded and brought the cup to his mouth. Noticing how Lena smiled, he scowled and took a drink. Is it any good? Lena asked in a buoyant tone. Yup. I'm glad. Clearing his throat, Dee began to speak again. It's common knowledge that the vital functions of all nobility center around the darkness itself. This gave rise to a certain hypothesis. It suggested that the darkness of night might hold the primary cause of the powers of the nobility, or the gene responsible, if you will. That is to say, perhaps the nobility absorbed some ghostly information belonging to the very darkness in the form of this gene, or so the theory went. Lena's eyes were sparkling, shining with the expectation and anxiety held solely by those who wrenched open the heavy door of the unknown, and beheld the light of truth spearing freely forth, sparkling relentlessly. That's the gene of darkness, isn't it? That's right. If only we could understand the structure of it, the riddles of the nobility would be solved. Where do we come from? Where are we going? And the answers would apply to mankind too. Dee, didn't they ever form this hypothesis? That humans are furnished with the gene of light? The moonlight caused their neat profiles to stand out stronger and whiter. The song of the wind, the aroma of the grass. That's right, Dee said. To be human is to live in the light. When you consider the length of their respective lifespans, humans don't amount to much when compared to the nobility. From a physiological standpoint, they're terribly frail as well. But when you take the potential energy of the race as a whole, light surpasses darkness, Lena muttered softly. That was one sort of destiny. But the nobles we've been seeing now. Lena was about to say more, but hemmed and hawed. In the cockles of her heart, someone was trying to cry out to her. Don't say it, they said. She got the feeling the dark voice was somehow connected to her fate. Nobility who walk in the daylight. Nobility who walk in the daylight. Dee brought the cup to his mouth again, and gazed at Lena. Shaking her head as if to reassure herself, she said, "There couldn't be such a thing." Something shiny rose in Lena's eye. Before it could spill over the rim, Lena threw herself around Dee's waist. Sobs rocked her shoulders. She didn't understand what made her so sad. She didn't know what she was afraid of either. She felt helpless, like she was alone at night walking down the road, and that night would see no dawn for all eternity. Dee set his cup on the floor and stroked her hair softly. "I just want to get out of this village," Lena wished with all her heart. "I want to go to the capital with him. Just the two of us, together forever." The song of the wind could be heard. The pair didn't move for the longest time. Unexpectedly, tension raced through Dee's body. Lena fell to the floor, still posed as when she'd clung to him. Dee stood by the babbling brook. There was no change to the surroundings. Perhaps Dee's sense of them alone had changed. "Why haven't you come yet?" It was the same presence from the rainy night. "I'm waiting for you. Waiting there." Where is there? What's the significance of those ruins? Dee asked this without uttering a word, without even thinking. That was the only rule in this conversation. "I may have failed," the presence said. "If so, I must dispose of them all. There isn't much time. I'm waiting." "Waiting for what, or for whom?" Dee asked. "What do you mean by waiting?" There was no answer to those questions. "Come quickly. I must go. This has gone on for such a long time, but it'll go on so much longer. Much longer. So much longer." Somewhere within Dee, the presence suddenly vanished. "So, it's the ruins after all, then." Dee looked back at the shack. Lena was standing in the doorway. Dee's eyes narrowed. An expression that was not quite fear nor wholly anger occupied Lena's face. "What's wrong?" he asked as he approached her. Lena shook her head. "It's nothing, really. You took off so fast. I was just a little scared, that's all." Pausing a bit, Dee then nodded. You should get some rest. I suppose you're right. Lena wasted no time in returning to the hut and getting into the sleeping bag. It was so warm, thanks to the thermal sensors that read the external air temperature and body temperature, and maintained the level of warmth most conducive to sleep. Dee's presence faded away. I bet he'll sleep with the darkness and the song of the wind for companions, his ear to the ground, Lena thought. Or does he have trouble sleeping at night? What are the Dhampirs, anyway? Behind her closed lids, an ash-gray figure floated, and it spoke in a weird voice. Remember what happened 10 years ago? Lena shook her head ever so slightly. Another voice. I must dispose of them all. Lena had heard the voice of the presence, too. Chapter 5. End.